Welcome back to Zantastic. This is the podcast where we talk about what makes you fantastic. I just redid my entire podcast site. I've been working with Generate Pros over the course of this year, and Mike Oliver over there did these starter sites, and I was like, I kind of want that. So I actually did a video showcasing how I did that. It is on my tech channel. I will have a link to that in the show notes and down below if you're watching on YouTube. It was a fun process. And I used this new plugin called Podcaster Plus, where you could actually design a podcast player. I made a real simple one that kind of went along with the starter site branding and everything. But there's so much you can do with this thing. It's pretty cool. So anyway, links are all on that video if you want to go check that out. I'll put them in the show notes as well. But I want to talk about something completely different, more than doing all of my tech work, which I still really love to do. But of course, this is about you. And I have had a number of conversations this week with coaching clients. I got an email from somebody that was very interesting, and there was a theme across all of them. And when that kind of thing happens, when I start seeing synchronicities showing up in my life, I know that it's either I've got something going on with me or it's something I need to talk about on the podcast. And since I don't really have anything going on with me too much, I figured this is for you. So this is about forgiveness and Ho'oponopono. Now, for those of you who have not been introduced to Ho'oponopono, this was something that my husband worked with 20 years ago, and he was actually the person that brought it to the guy who wrote the book. So he was very instrumental in it becoming much more known. Is an ancient Hawaiian practice that makes things right. It was traditionally used in Hawaii to bring cohesion to families and to groups. And it was about forgiveness. Now, it became really popular because of a guy who's no longer with us, Dr. Ihaliakila Hugh Len. And Dr. Len would go to or the story goes, would go to a mental institution in Hawaii, and instead of actually working with the patients there, he actually would just take their files and then do Ho'oponopono on the files, and people got better. He never actually went and worked with the people that had the actual problem. He worked on what was going on within himself and healed himself and what he was seeing and the data that was being presented to him, and he cleared that data. His whole philosophy was about getting back to sort of the zero state, this blank slate, the place within you where you don't have any patterns. It's similar to what we do in neurolinguistic programming. It's all about unraveling your patterns and creating new ones that are more effective and that serve your needs better. Because when we're kids, we develop patterns in order to keep ourselves safe, especially when we're less than 7 years old and we're very impressionable. We're much more in this theta state of our brain waves where we are very impressionable and we kind of figure out how the world works. So we develop patterns to keep us safe. Now, if mom and dad are screaming all of the time and you create some kind of action that makes mom and dad stop screaming, your unconscious basically is like, okay, this is how we create peace in our life. And when you're older, that pattern doesn't work anymore, but it's still there. It's part of your formative experience. So what neurolinguistic programming does is it gets rid of that pattern or that data. Ho'oponopono, however, is a way of doing this on yourself so that you can get rid of the patterns in the data that create your interpretation of your experience. Because there really is no reality. Reality is what you think it is. Reality is what your subconscious believes that it is. It is all coming through your senses, right? So there's these filters that are in all of our minds. What we see, what we hear, what we think, what we feel, what we taste, what we smell, all of our senses inform our brain, inform our subconscious about what's going on in our reality. These patterns are our responses to whatever we believe is happening outside of us. So there is really no reality. It's only what you think it is. When you can get this, your perception of reality starts to shift because you realize that it isn't a hard, cold fact about reality. It is what you think reality is. It is what you interpret, your senses telling you about what reality is. So Ho'oponopono is all about self-healing. It is not necessarily about healing somebody else and whatever is going on with them. It's about healing the patterns within you that create the interpretation and create the experience that you believe to be the truth of your reality. Now, what ends up happening is your perception of your reality starts to shift. Your perception about what is happening out there starts to change. So what's out there changes. In practice, I have seen it happen numerous times. I've been working with Ho'oponopono now for almost 20 years since I met Mark, and it has helped a lot. I've got patterns from my childhood, which was far from perfect, and he's got patterns from his childhood that are far from perfect. A lot of those have been wiped out because of the stroke, but a lot of them are still there, and they come out in very odd ways now that he doesn't have his filters in the same way as he had them before. But Ho'oponopono has healed a lot, but it's mostly about self-healing. Let's go through like the 4 phrases as Dr. Hewlin taught them. First, we have, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Not, I'm sorry because I did something wrong. I'm sorry, I've created this data. I've created this experience. It's the ultimate of taking responsibility for your life experience. So it is very akin to, in Christianity, they talk about repentance. It is taking ownership over your experience. It's saying, I created this. I am responsible for this. And I'm sorry for creating what I am experiencing here. It is about getting yourself to that place of no ego, where you actually feel responsibility, you feel remorse sometimes, but it's not like beating yourself up. It's not that you have to feel sorry and that you have to go apologize to everyone. It's just, I'm sorry that this data exists. And then please forgive me. Who are you saying it to? Are you saying it to the other person that you have issues with? Is it about forgiving another person? No, it's about please forgive me. Please forgive me for creating this data. It's about repentance. It's about going to the place where you want forgiveness. And the great thing about our higher selves, the great thing about God, about spirit, is that it's much like a parent, right? And if you have kids, you know what it's like when your kid comes up to you and says, I'm sorry, please forgive me. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to hold a grudge? Absolutely not. It's complete and total forgiveness because the divine loves us no matter what. That love is always there. That forgiveness is always there. It's just that sometimes we are holding ourselves in a place where we are just experiencing pain. And because we have free will, it's not like, God or the divine or our higher self is going to take that away from us. So please forgive me puts you in a place of receiving forgiveness. And a lot of it, I think, is forgiving ourselves. We have a lot of guilt, whether you are dealing with an intimate partner relationship, dealing with your kids. You're never going to be a perfect parent. A friend, whoever it is that you are dealing with, you are never going to be perfect. And we carry around a lot of guilt. I know with some of the stress I have in my life, with Mark and the stroke, I can go back to, I've done a lot of therapy on this, but I go back to the days before the stroke. Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I understand the signs, even though they presented in kind of a wacky way? Why did I not see that he was having a stroke? Why did I not take care of him better? Because he wasn't taking care of himself. Why did I not? I have had to go through the process of forgiving myself, giving that gift of peace, of no more guilt. So it's forgiving ourselves more than anything else, because when it comes right down to it, they talk about like when you die, you go to the other side and you have a life review. I don't think the life review is like, God there with a checklist of like, well, let's look at all of these things that you've done. It's more you reviewing your life and you see where you missed the mark, where you sinned, as they would say. Sin is just basically missing the mark. not living up to what you wanted to do, not living up to your highest ideals, to your expectations of yourself. Forgiveness of yourself is the most important thing. Now, the next two phrases in Ho'oponopono are thank you, gratitude, which heals everything. When you can feel gratitude for just the smallest things in your life, then gratitude shows up in other ways. More is added unto you because you have gratitude for what you have. So being grateful for that forgiveness that can happen in an instant if you are open to it. And then just, I love you. So thank you and I love you just puts you back into the state of who you really are. Because underneath all of your patterns, underneath all of the stress you have in your life, all of the beliefs, all of the data, you are love. That's all that we are. It's either love or it's fear, as they talk about in A Course in Miracles. You are either in a state of love or you're in a state of fear. So all of those negative emotions, they're not really unique. They all, underneath everything, have the basis of fear. So if you're angry, what are you angry about? It's probably fear. Now, I know a lot of times people say things to us that are very hurtful. I've had a couple of friends come to me this week where their kids have done things that have been incredibly hurtful. And there's nothing worse than your kids doing something after you've given so much to them, and then they do something where it makes it seem like they just don't appreciate anything you've done. You have so much love for your child, and then they do something that makes it seem like they have no idea how you feel about them. These types of things can cause all kinds of negative emotions popping up in us, all kinds of hurt. But all of that hurt is not real. It is a pattern, and maybe it's a pattern that you learned in childhood, but it's coming up, and there's an opportunity when it comes up for you to heal it. So let's say your kids do something that is pretty egregious. They cross a boundary, they say something hurtful, they do something hurtful, and you're feeling just rejection from the person that you love the most. Luckily, I don't have that with my kids right now, although it could happen at any moment. But your kids say something that's incredibly hurtful, and you're just devastated. As parents, that's what happens. And all you can do really is get back to love, because you love your kid no matter what they do, even if they're hurting your feelings. You get back to that love state and love them anyway. Sometimes Mark is incredibly frustrating. He has no impulse control. He's gone through some leg pain lately. Thank God that has cleared. But he got into this pattern of just vocalizing that he was in pain, even though he wasn't in pain. But the pattern was just kind of running, and I'd go in and say, "What's going on? Are you hurting?" "No." "Well, why are you hollering?" "I don't know. I didn't think I was." Okay. Brain injuries are weird. I've gotten him out of it, and I found something that gets him out of it, which is music, believe it or not. So I'll just put on some music for him that makes him feel good, and that vocalization goes away. It took me about a week to figure out something. I was trying all these NLP techniques. I talked to one of his friends, a therapist, who was giving me some ideas, and nothing was working. But music, magical music, makes me feel better too. So you just get back to love. You get back to the place where you feel nothing but love, no matter what, no matter how much someone is hurting you, because the hurt really does go back to fear. It's this fear of abandonment, this fear of being alone, this fear of rejection, the fear of not being good enough. It can go anywhere, but all of those fears are kind of ego associated. When you get back to who you really are, love, and you can feel that, and you don't even have to express it. You just have to feel it. Now, when I was younger, I didn't really understand. I did not have parents who were good role models of like how to have a relationship. So I didn't understand like love. I actually remember in my 20s having the question, is it better to be loved by someone or is it better to love someone? Because I had loved people and they had hurt my feelings, and I didn't even really know what it felt like to be loved. And then I felt what it was to be loved, and I realized it's much more important to feel love, to love someone, no matter what. Love someone even if they hurt you. Love someone even if they cross your boundaries. Love someone no matter what, because that's the truth of who we are. We are love. And when we can get back to that and experience life through that filter, if we can live our life through the place of who we really are at our core, without the data, without the ego, without the fear, without the expectations, without the boundaries, without all of the rules that we set up in order to keep ourselves safe so we don't get hurt and we don't have to feel fear, when we can just get back to love and just experience that no matter what is going on, you don't even have to do Ho'oponopono. You don't have to go through any process. The processes are all about getting back to that place where there is love, because forgiveness is not really a gift to someone else. You don't have to forgive someone else in order to feel free. It's more about just forgiving yourself, forgiving the patterns. But forgiving someone else is really not for them. It's for you. It's for your freedom. It's for your peace. It's for your knowing of who you really are. Getting back to that core state of love no matter what. We've had a lot of spiritual teachers along the way trying to show us the way. And sometimes I will just look at all of this and just like, they're better people than me. But there's a benchmark there. There is a target. There is something I can emulate. There is something I can strive for, something we all can. And that's to love no matter what first. And you don't have to set yourself up to get hurt. But if you realize the hurt is just a pattern, then how can anyone really even hurt you if you're just centered in love? When you can do that, you're free. You don't need NLP. You don't need Ho'oponopono. You don't need any of these processes. Now, what happens when you have somebody who has really crossed your boundaries and then you have to keep dealing with them and they keep crossing your boundaries and they keep triggering you and you keep feeling the hurt, the anger, the frustration? How do you deal with it then? Part of it comes from understanding that those people are broken. Those people are in their ego-based fear states, and they are acting from their ego-based fear states. Because when you're centered in love, you can't really hurt someone, at least not intentionally. You can't. And if you do hurt someone, you're much more attuned and aware that you've hurt someone, and so healing is much more possible. But those people who hurt us and are doing it just unconsciously, they have data, they have patterns. So you can use Ho'oponopono to focus on them and heal the part of you that perceives that that is there. So if somebody keeps hurting you, they keep crossing your boundaries, they keep doing the thing that is just so irritating, the focus is first on getting rid of whatever your trigger is, and getting back to love can help with that. But it's also focusing on that person and sending that energy towards them. So please forgive me that I see that my mother-in-law is doing this thing again. Please forgive me that I see it. I'm sorry for whatever I have done that have caused her to feel this way, to act this way. And then thank you, because the divine is all that heals, right? We don't heal someone else. We might do Reiki and channel energy towards someone. There are ways of doing that, but if someone isn't receptive to it, there's really nothing we can do. They have free will. They have free choice. We can't control them, but we can control our perceptions. So we say thank you to the divine for the healing that we know is possible, the healing we know is probable. And then we say, I love you, to get back to the love that we are. And it's not like you have to work through all of your ego stuff. It's just like we see that it's ego stuff, that it's fear-based, that it's just our triggers and our patterns. And we just get back to love. Because when you're there, it kind of heals everything. It's pure. It is the whiteboard, as Dr. Len would say. It's the place where there is no data. where everything is erased, where we are pure without karma, without balance, without any of the stuff we have to go through. There's so many symbols and, esoteric and spiritual teachings that try to get us back to this. Like, I look at even an astrology chart, and if you've ever seen one, it's a circular wheel, at least in the Western astrology, and in the center, there's just this empty space. And I kind of feel like that's who we are. We're that empty space. But then we have like all of these houses around the astrology wheel and planets in these houses, and they make angles at each other. And I just look at all of that, and it's just like I can see, a trine is more of a softer angle, and it's not as hard and doesn't have as much of a charge to it. And then we have squares where there is conflict and there is more of a charge and a spark. But I know that that is all just data. It's just karma balancing. It's just data. It's not who we really are. We come into this space, we come into this world, and we say, all right, yeah, I'll play this game. We have a deck of cards and we get handed certain things at birth, and this is what we have. This is what we have to work with. But the patterns, the life experience, everything that we're going through, it isn't who we really are. It's just a game. It is just something that we're playing along with. And so when you can see it in that way, that it's just a game and it's not who you are, you can get back to who you are and take some of the charge off of it, dissociate from the experience so we aren't triggered as much, and just see it outside of ourselves, distanced, maybe off in the distance, on the horizon, far away. And it makes it less reactive, makes us less reactive, makes it less of a trigger for us, just gives us space, gives us opportunity. That whole adage of the power is really in the space between the trigger and your response. If you can put some space there and put the trigger further and further away, you have much more control over your response instead of feeling like you have to react. We have conflict in our lives, whether it's conflict with other people, usually, or if it's conflict with your financial situation or the house that you have to take care of. I have a leaky toilet. I have to go check it now and see if what I did to it fixed it. Always something. But this kind of conflict, yeah, I guess I could go ho'oponopono my toilet, see if it fixes it. I think it just needs a new bobber thing. I'm not sure. But we're testing things, and that's what you can do too. Use Ho'oponopono as a test and see if it can help you clear things within yourself so that your experience of other people and other things gets a lot easier. Hope this was helpful, and we will see you next time on Zantastic.